Hundreds of people have been killed, more than 1,000 wounded while looking for food at the private militarized so-called aid sites, which replaced UN distribution centers in May. The entire population of Gaza, 2.1 million people, experience prolonged shortages of food. 500,000 are in a catastrophic situation of hunger, acute malnutrition, starvation, and illness, according to the World Health Organization.
Well, aside from the fact that Palestinians continued getting slaughtered at these humanitarian aid hubs by the IDF, and the IDF admits that they would fire warning shots, Israel has also decided to halt aid deliveries into Gaza again. And that's according to the Israeli station Channel 12 News. Apparently, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is justifying further starving the Palestinian people by doing what Israelis always do: blame Hamas, even when they're the ones responsible for the behavior. Now, Netanyahu's office announced that he ordered the military to present a plan within the next 2 days on how to keep Hamas from stealing humanitarian assistance. So that's the cover story. Oh, we don't want to deliver aid to starving Palestinians because we're worried Hamas is stealing it. In reality, the Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Aid Foundation was luring desperate Palestinians to these hubs where they were supposed to get the aid that they so desperately need. And then you'd have IDF soldiers firing on them, as, by the way, Israeli Gideon Levy said on Piers Morgan's show just yesterday. Take a look.
I must remind ourselves that when the UN's agencies distributed the aid, there were no killed people. It all started with this monster organization of putting 2-3 stations in the Gaza Strip for 2 million people, almost as an experiment in human beings, in starving human beings. None of them was killed in purpose, all of them by chance, all of them potential threat to the soldiers. How dare you to spread this propaganda knowing that you are lying?
Again, that was Gideon Levy, who is in fact Israeli and has been critical of the Israeli government in the past. Now, at least 103 Palestinians were killed by Israeli fire over the past 24 hours, local health authorities said, including some shot near an aid distribution point, the latest in a series of such incidents. The Israeli military had no immediate comment. That is the real issue here. And this whole notion that, oh, Hamas is stealing aid and Israel wants to investigate this in order to find a better way to deliver aid is complete bunk. It's nonsense. In regard to halting that humanitarian aid from entering the Gaza Strip, the Prime Minister's office came after, or his announcement came after, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, who wants to starve the Palestinians to death, by the way, threatened that he could no longer remain in the government if immediate action wasn't taken to prevent aid from reaching Hamas. Now, any normal person who's not a sociopath would say, good day, sir. Go ahead and leave the government. You're not wanted. But of course, there is a fragile coalition that makes up the current Israeli government. Without that coalition, Netanyahu knows that he'll no longer be in power. And of course, he's very much concerned about that. And if there's any evidence that's being shown to prove that Hamas is stealing the aid, what the Israelis are circulating online is this video that shows dozens of masked men, some armed with rifles, but most carrying sticks, riding on aid trucks. Okay, well, what is that about? Turns out the Higher Commission for Tribal Affairs, which represents influential clans in the territory, said the trucks had been protected as part of an aid security process managed solely through tribal efforts. The commission said that no Palestinian faction, a reference to Hamas, had taken part in the process. The clans came to form a stance to prevent the aggression and the thieves from stealing the food that belongs to our people. Abu Salman al-Magani, a representative of Gazan clan, said, referring to a Wednesday operation. And look, I don't trust Hamas at all. Hamas says they've done no such thing. They've never stolen any humanitarian aid. I'm sure that there's been instances where they have. But in regard to the video that they're circulating, you have to keep in mind, we're talking about starving Palestinians. They've been intentionally starved for months and months. And so when they see a humanitarian aid truck come through, they're going to rush toward the truck because they want food, they need sustenance to feed their families. So the argument here from the Higher Commission for Tribal Affairs is that they're providing security to ensure that chaos doesn't break out. Although these humanitarian aid hubs, Cenk, as you know, have been chaotic and have led to dozens of Palestinians getting shot and killed on a daily basis since late May.
So the UN and other groups used to do this aid system where they would hand out the food. And to Anna's point, to Gideon Levy's point, no one ever got shot at those stations. People got the food, it was orderly. Largely speaking, Hamas did not steal the food, certainly not systematically. There's always bad actors in any given situation. I'm gonna come back to that because I'm gonna knock down a propaganda point of Israel that it's important to knock down. But so now that Israel's running the centers, the problem is if you don't have anyone guarding the food on the other side, since people are starving, there's going to be mayhem. And that's part of the reason why Israel did this, because they want the Palestinians fighting amongst themselves. They want them desperate, and then they want any excuse to kill them. So the minute that there's any kind of disturbance by the food, they're like, perfect, open fire. And they just start slaughtering people. By the way, Israel killed 103 Palestinians yesterday. Does anybody notice? Is there any big headlines? No, they're like, oh, we have 20 hostages, and that's terrible, okay. But wait, just on one day alone, would I kill 103 innocent people to maybe put pressure on to get 20 hostages back months later or whenever? No, I wouldn't kill 103 innocent people no matter what. And they do it every single day, massacre after massacre. It just doesn't get it reported as much anymore because people just got tired of reporting the same old news. Israel slaughters more innocent Palestinians every single day. So it's not an accident, they're doing it on purpose. Now, the reason you need other people on the other side is order, right? So that it doesn't turn into mayhem and people don't hurt each other. So since it can't be Hamas, not only Israel doesn't want Hamas, but the Palestinians in that case don't want Hamas to take it because they need it for their family. So the traditional tribal clans have stepped in, and now apparently Fatah is also coming in. They run the West Bank and they are sworn enemies of Hamas, okay? So they're trying to make sure that Hamas does not get the food. They're doing every effort they can to make sure that doesn't happen. But Israel goes, who cares? All dirty Muslims. Fatah, Hamas, they're opposed to each other, tribal clans. Who cares? It's all an excuse to starve them, to kill them. So cutting off the aid, Gideon Levy's right, Anna's right. It's not even close. It's definitely because Bezalel Smotrich, his name even sounds demonic, like Blazel. Anyway, it doesn't matter because his name could be perfectly great, his name could be terrible, and he could do wonderful things. The bottom line is the guy is a certifiable monster. So we're not just saying this like to get you to, oh my God, rile you up against some Israeli minister. No. What Anna said is literal. He said in public, if he could, he'd not only starve the Palestinians to death, he'd make it quicker by cutting the water so that they would all die of thirst. But he said, but I can't because of international pressure. So we have to pretend to be feeding them and keep them on the brink of starvation. Spoken like a true Nazi. And I don't hesitate at all in calling him a Nazi. I mean, okay, so now let's use that analogy for a second, and I don't care if you get offended. I'm 10 million times more offended by the genocide that Israel supporters are protecting and defending right now. 10,000 times more offended by the 17,000 dead kids and the 20,000 dead women, okay? So, and if you're not, then you're saying, yeah, I don't care about Muslim lives. I just care about, am I offended? Okay, so let me offend you further, okay? Now, and think about it. If you're not biased in this issue, this is going to be blaringly and glaringly obvious, okay? Imagine if in the middle of the Holocaust, the Germans said, some of the Jewish prisoners are stealing the food. They've come up with a little organized gang of Jews. And that is why we're starving all the Jews to death. Would anyone believe them? Would they say, oh, I see, some Jews are stealing some of the food because you've got them in starvation concentration camps. So that's why you're preventing all of the Jews from getting the food, so you starve all of them. Well, no one would accept that ridiculous propaganda from the Nazis. But that is literally what the Israelis are saying. Some small group of Palestinians might be stealing some of the food. That is why we're starving the entire population. Well, you see, that's an obvious lie. They're starving them on purpose because they have become what they most feared. And one more thing for now, and I got more details in a sec, but look, I'm so proud that I was the partner with Gideon Levy in a debate we did on Israel. And what I really appreciate is, well, we already had tons of Jewish Americans speaking out against this genocide. Now, brave Israelis are coming out and going, no, this is not what we signed up for. This is what we hate. What are we doing? This is insanity. So thank you for speaking out and being a moral voice within Israel. Last two things here, guys. So number one, the reason Smotrich wants to starve them is because he wants to push them into the Sinai Desert in Egypt and take all of Gaza. Again, not speculation. He has said it. He said we should take all of Gaza, and they have voted to quote unquote conquer Gaza. If he leaves the coalition, Netanyahu's out. I have heard rumors, this is massive speculation and it comes from the right wing, so take it with a boulder of salt, that they're working on a two-state solution peace deal. I would be floored by that. But the reason that I'm bringing that up as a possibility here is that Netanyahu soon will have to make a decision. Am I going to keep that coalition government together with the right-wing Nazis in his government like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, like convicted terrorists and proud genociders? Or am I going to do a deal with Trump and the US and we're going to lead to a ceasefire? And I mean, again, two-state solution seems unimaginable at this point. But if they went in that direction and they ended all of this, then he wouldn't need necessarily Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. He might be able to make an alliance with other people in the Knesset. Because the only thing that Netanyahu cares about is staying in power, and of course murdering Palestinians because he enjoys that, and stealing their land. He loves that. That's been his lifelong mission. But overall, he might think, hey, you know what? I stole enough land here. I killed enough Palestinians here. I'm going to stay in power with this alliance rather than that alliance. It's a tough thing to believe. It's a real stretch. I'll only believe it after I see the deal. But usually what'll happen is they'll promise something like that, and then they'll come back and go, oh yeah, two-state solution where they continue to be occupied and we control both the Israeli side and the Palestinian side. We're gonna call it a two-state solution, but they live under permanent oppression and they serve us and we can kill them anytime we like. That's usually how it goes, but maybe there's a strand of hope there. But for now, the starvation continues.
There will never be any hope unless the United States allows the international community to ensure that Israel follows through in allowing Palestinians to have their own state and an opportunity at self-determination. But Israel will never allow that, and they've been clear about it. So the US will always provide cover for Israel unless we change the way politics works in this country. And I don't want to give people false hope. The problem is the cover that the United States provides for any and all wrongdoing carried out by the Israeli government.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.